Well, when I began here at St. Peter's, there was nothing. There was just a blank desk with a folder on it that said youth group activities. And inside the folder was a bunch of loose leaf paper that had contacts from parents and teens and fundraisers they did with the kids to help bring money into the parish, to the first youth group forum that had a quote on it that said, "Love Jesus with your whole heart." And so I had a clean slate to start with. I had a ground to plow and to build off of. And so the first event I did failed miserably, and it was a trunk or treat, and it was terrible. And I started saying to myself, okay, what can I start with though? What can I start to build with? What is around me that I can really try to use? And I went to the principal, and the principal at the school said, well, why don't you do the retreat with the kids? We have a retreat coming up. We're looking for someone to run it. So I did a middle school retreat for the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders here, and it was amazing. It was a great platform for me to begin to start really building a community and kind of forming bonds and trust with the kids to start saying, hey, we're going to start youth group in a couple of months. You should come out and join. So about 2 months later after that, we began our first junior youth group. And we started having a regular junior youth group meetings on Friday nights once a month. And it started out with 15 kids, then jumped to 20 kids, then jumped to 25 kids as the year kind of progressed and went on. And as we kind of kept going and building these relationships and forming this middle school community, we began to tap into some of the parish events that they had here for years, and asking the kids to really step up as leaders and kind of come out and help out with it. And it was wonderful. And then we continued to move through youth group, move through junior youth group. And I noticed that as great as this all was in this middle school group that we had and this little community that was forming, we still needed more teens. And it's not because it was about the numbers, but it was because we knew we could encounter more people. So I figured
I
the
knew we
only
could
way
encounter
that
more
we
people.
could get more teens was to kind of have broad events. I figured if we did a big event for the parish, we could bring in more teens. And so I ended up starting trying to do a couple of field trips, one to go climbing, another one to go to Lake Compounds. And as I put out for these trips, we ended up going to the different communities that we had here at the parish to try to get kids involved. And so we really tapped into the Spanish community. And on staff, we have an assistant who does the translating and assists our DRE. And so in the office that we work together, I went to her and said, how can I get more involved with the Spanish community? And she really just kind of took me under her wing and said, let's go. And so we got involved with the Spanish community and really brought those kids in. So then my DRE had asked me to run the confirmation program here. And I took a look at what they had, and it was a lot of chalk and talk and textbooks and lectures. And I wanted to change that completely, to make it more of a personal encountering type of program, a personal encountering with Christ, to be able for the kids to be able to dive deeper into their relationships with Christ by giving personal witness to the faith. And so I took some of the teens that we had from the field trips that were in high school to help come back and run the program, because the program was for 8th graders and some of the kids who were in middle school. And it was amazing. They were phenomenal leaders who right off the bat, with no training really or anything, came in and helped run small groups and some of the icebreakers and activities. And it took off. From there, those high schoolers got involved with the high schoolers that were in the confirmation program, and they built a senior youth group, and they built a community, and they started forming a community. And that community was centered around the idea of prayer, but more so it was centered around the idea of just being together, of just a place where they could go, a safe environment where they could go, because their home lives and their families, not that they weren't safe, but they weren't necessarily the best outlets for them to relax and just be a normal teenager. And so as they came here to the parish, they formed that community where they could just be a normal teenager. And so as the program kept going, and we did service projects and everything, we started getting into the retreat aspects of the program as well. And so the program had 3 retreats that built off each other, grew in time as well. And it was a half-day retreat, then it grew into more of a long-day retreat, and then finally to a 3-day retreat. And so each retreat we brought in different guests to come speak, and then we would run the different games, activities, and prayer styles ourselves. And the high school community that formed that high school youth group, that senior youth group, there were kids that wanted to come and who weren't involved in the program, but who were from the Spanish community, who wanted to be more involved in helping to be a leader and helping to be a part of this confirmation crew that we had. And so they came, in our final retreat that we had, they helped run it. And there was a team of about 10 students, 10 teenagers who were the crew, and they ran it for a group of about 30 candidates. So confirmation ended. It was great. It was a beautiful day. But then I realized I had all these teens who were here present at the parish who wanted not only to continue with senior youth group and be more involved, but they were longing for Christ more and more. And really, at the end of the day, that longing for Christ was a longing for community where they knew they could find Christ because they were here together. And they knew that where two or three were gathered in his name, that he would be there with them. And so that community was what I had, and that community was what they were longing for. And so we needed to build off that. And so I thought to myself, okay, if we can build and sustain leaders, then we can kind of build the young church more and more here, and they can become the future leaders of this parish. So we began to do team training with them, running through different exercises, different group activities and games. We ended up having a retreat at the end of the summer to cap it all off. And they spent 4 days out of their summer to be together in community, to worship in community together, to learn, to speak about their own personal experiences of their faith, but also to sit there and say, how can we take this another step further, not only better the program, the confirmation program we had, but also better our own personal community that we have here as high school students. So really, at the end of the day, what we provided for these teens was community. We offered them a place to be together where they didn't have to feel like they could be anything else but just regular teenagers. They didn't have to be the adults that they have to be at home. Because for most of my teens, they go home and they have to be adults. And at 14 years old, these kids are cleaning, cooking, and taking care of their siblings because mom and dad are working 2 or 3 jobs. And that's fine because they have to provide bread on the table, but these kids don't even have a break from going to school all day, then coming home and taking care of their siblings and everything, then going back to school the next day. And this happens every single day of their lives. So what we provided for them was just a place for them to come and be in community. A place for them to come and be in a confirmation program that sits there and teaches them what it means to have a personal relationship with Christ by getting rid of the textbooks and getting rid of the chalk and the talk, and by doing the games and activities and running it like a retreat every Sunday when we met, so they could understand that there's a God who loves them by the personal witness that we showed. And all of this took failing in the beginning to adapt to the parish identity that was here, to bring in the Spanish community, and to really sit back and say, okay, these teens are longing for God. Let's provide a place where they can go find him, know him, and realize that he has unconditional love and mercy for them.